Welcome to Spectacle on Television Nigeria. I am your host, Daniel Atai. Happy anniversary to the second-term administration of President Muhammadu Buhari, and welcome to Spectacle on Television Nigeria. I am Daniel Atai. Today we shall be looking at the scorecard of Mr. President, not only in this 1 year of his second term, but since inception. However, we shall discuss more on the power and the agri sectors with reference to the Siemens AG contract to upgrade Nigerians' electricity supply to 11,000 megawatts and the $1.2 billion to be injected into the agri mechanization across 632 local government areas in Nigeria, which experts are saying if these two are implemented effectively, it means the diversification of the economy from oil dependency will truly be said to have begun. Let's take a short break, after which I will introduce to you our guest analysts in the studio, as well as the body of the topic on discussion. Please stay tuned.
Network committed to serving you the very best in online and offline television programming. Situated in the serene environment of Guzape, Abuja FCT, TVN, as it is fondly called, caters to a wide variety of audience via carefully orchestrated mind-blowing programs in the areas of fashion, business, politics, entertainment, religion, movies, food and health, culture and lifestyle, events around the globe, sports and foreign news. Whatever your inclination, we've got you completely covered with programs like Issues of the Moment, The Patriot, Daybreak Nigeria, Matter Africa, TVN Business Time, Healthy Living, From the Cradle, Stay Inspired, Entertainment Gist, Movie Hour, Hits Paradise, among others. All designed to keep you thoroughly informed, entertained, at the edge of your seats and yearning for more. A tour around our domain will reveal a highly dedicated staff force and a state-of-the-art facility and equipment for high-definition quality broadcast, making our station your #1 choice in advertising your business and propagating your ideas. We are currently on NigComSat doing our test transmission for takeoff in the nearest future. Television Nigerian is located in Nigeria at Television Nigerian House, Guzape Hilltop Mansion, beside Guzape White House, Guzape Abuja FCT, and in the United Kingdom at 45 Ancient House, 48 Aerodrome Road, Beaufort Park, Colindale, London. For inquiries,
Welcome back. Welcome back. With me in the studio to look into this is Mr. Leke Olateru Olagbegi. Leke Olateru is a financial economist and a consultant. He is also a capital raising consultant. Mr. Leke, you are welcome to Spectacle.
Thank you very much.
All right. Okay, let's take a short clip before Mr. Leke will begin his analysis of the Agric and Siemens loan approval and counterpart funding approved respectively. The Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development, Alhaji Sabon Nanono, has told the State House correspondents that a sum of $1.2 billion has been approved by President Muhammadu Buhari at the last Federal Executive Council meeting held on May 14, 2020, for the purpose of agricultural mechanization development in the 632 local governments and 142 processing plants across the nation. Nanano said the sector would experience first of its kind revolution, saying that this is going to be a major revolution in the agriculture sector that we have never seen before. In another development, according to Commerce Africa magazine, on how Nigeria plans to revolutionize agriculture with $1.2 billion loan, the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Agriculture, Dr. Andrew Kwasari, said that the purpose of the loan facility was to galvanize the infrastructural facilities of the sector, saying that agriculture is a sure way to diversify and grow the economy in the immediate and in the long terms. This approval will stimulate appropriate technological scaling to realize potentials in agricultural mechanization. It is time to shift gear from potential to reality in the capability of the Nigerian agricultural sector and to grow the GDP. Our analysis has shown that this investment has numerous economic multiplier effects that will grow the nation's GDP and foreign exchange reserve by billions of US dollars in few years to come. In another development, Nigeria's power infrastructure to get urgent makeover as Buhari orders payment to Siemens AG. Nigeria power distribution infrastructure is getting a major makeover as President Muhammadu Buhari has directed the Ministry of Finance to release the Siemens AG its share of funding in the power deal agreed last year. According to an April 28 letter from the Office of the Ministry of Finance, Budget and Planning to the Ministry of Power, the Finance Ministry will pay from the signature bonus account the negotiated sum of €15,206,166, which is offshore works amount, and €1.7 billion, which is onshore works amount, which has been approved as Nigeria's 15% counterpart funding for the concessionary loan. Experts like Chuks Nwani, an energy lawyer based in Lagos, said this signals that the federal government is in a hurry to leave a legacy of improved power delivery. The federal government has convinced the distribution companies to sign the concessionary loan agreement as they would enjoy the immediate benefit of improved power distribution assets. It will also oblige them to repay, but the federal government, by this action, is guaranteeing the whole sum to quickly start development while finalizing the agreement with DISCOs, Nwani said. However, this raises another concern as industry watchers wonder how the government will negotiate contracts and then seek to impose them on the private sector owners of the DISCOs. The federal and the state government own 40% stake in the DISCOs. However, industry experts say the problem with Nigeria's power sector is not just about the decrepit network infrastructure that is the worn out or the ruined because of age or neglect that has caused our infrastructure in the power sector to be obsolete. It is about rather discipline in enforcing and complying with market rules. There is an urgent need to fix governance at the public and private aspects of the power sector, and the regulator needs to be proactive in fixing the market and enforcing rules. The absence of governance and functional electricity market has shut out access to private equity funds, including the pension funds, as invested funds cannot be recovered, and created the need for Nigeria to rely on Siemens funding type of arrangements. According to the letter, the President has also directed that the relevant agencies immediately conclude the necessary procurement and contracting processes to kick off phase 1 of the project, and that the Minister of Finance should establish and capitalize a project special purpose vehicle SPV to engage Siemens to commence the pre-engineering and financing work streams. For Nigerian Engineering Procurement Construction EPC, who are the contractors, they may have been hoping for a slice of the pie from this contract. They would have to keep their fingers crossed, as the President directed that Siemens be charged with nominating EPC partners to perform all onshore works. That means the Nigerian engineering procurement construction may, however, not be contacted at all for this contract to be implemented. According to the letter, the objective is to preserve the integrity and transparency of the procurement process under the government-to-government framework. Analysts say the rate of the concessionary loan is low and the terms friendly, but the cost of the network equipment will be out of Nigeria's control with the way the agreement is structured, as Siemens will provide equipment from its factories. The President directed that legal agreement between the project special purpose vehicle and the Siemens consortium be reviewed by the Attorney General of the Federation. Buhari has said in his New Year Day letter to Nigerians a significant improvement in electricity service supply is expected in the next 12 months, banking on a new public and private investments into the sector. Buhari also referenced the deal with Siemens signed on July 22, 2019, which will see the German company upgrade transmission and distribution network to double Nigeria's electricity generation and raise distribution capacity threefold to 11,000 megawatt by 2023. Consumers will be the biggest winners, as it will translate to improved power delivery if all processed according to plans, Wani said.
Nigeria for long have been yearning for change until the emergence of President Muhammadu Buhari. Since then, the country have recorded laudable projects in every sector, one of which is education. President Buhari has shown his commitment to service delivery in the creation of the Maritime University Delta State, Nigerian Army University, Biu, Borno State, University of Agriculture, Zuru, Kebbi State, University of Transportation, Daura, Katsina State, Air Force University, Tafawa Balewa, Bauchi State. Also, 200 billion naira has been released to universities in Nigeria through the TED Fund. Also, President Buhari has created 6 federal colleges of education in 7 states of the country, namely Bauchi State, Benue State, Ebonyi State, Osun State, Sokoto State, Edo State, Federal Polytechnic Daura, Katsina State. In the area of healthcare, President Buhari did not disappoint as he established the Air Force Referral Hospital Daura, NAF Base Stand Hospital Bauchi, Women and Children Hospital Daura, 44 Military Hospital Kaduna, National Cancer Center Abuja, Cancer Center at the University Teaching Hospital Unilag, and a proposed Federal College of Health Science Otukpo. In the area of interventions, President Muhammadu Buhari bailed out 27 governors and their states with finances running in billions of dollars. The infrastructural area have received a great boost as Nigeria has witnessed the creation of bridges, namely the second Niger Bridge, Loko Wetu Bridge, Nassau Benue and Southeast. Amongst the ports created are the Baru Inland Water Port, Kaduna Dry Port, Eastern Port in Delta State, Bonny Bridge and Road, River State. 15 fertilizer plants revived. The creation of Northeast Development Commission. The federal highways in Nigeria have also witnessed an improvement, including the Lagos-Sagamu-Ibadan Expressway, Kano-Maiduguri Expressway, Abuja-Kaduna-Kano Expressway, Apapa-Oshodi-Owolonshoki Road, New Abuja Airport Runway and Terminal, Enugu-Port Harcourt Expressway, Abuja-Kefi-Lafia-Makurdi Expressway. The aviation industry also witnessed great boost in the creation of the new Abuja Airport Terminal, New Lagos Airport Terminal, Port Harcourt Airport Terminal, Enugu Airport Terminal. The power sector is not left out as it has also witnessed a great boost, which include the creation of the Dadin-Kowa Power Plant Gombe, Kashimbila Hydropower Plant completed, Mambila Hydropower Plant awarded, independent power supply to Ariaria Market, Abia State, independent power supply Sabongeri Market, Kano State, independent power plants Sura Shopping Complex, Lagos, independent power plants for 37 universities, independent power plants for 7 teaching hospitals. There has been an ongoing oil exploration in Bauchi State. Also, over 200 billion naira released for investors, which is the first of its kind in the history of Nigeria. In the railway sector, President Muhammadu Buhari has extended his change agenda, creation of the Abuja Metro Train, the Abuja Kano Train, Itakpe, Kogi State, Warri Delta State, Lagos Abeokuta Ogun State, Ibadan, Oyo. Lagos Kaduna Cargo Train. Train Assembly Plan, Ogun. Lagos Kaduna Cargo Train. Also, President Muhammadu Buhari policies on trade and investment attracted the Wakot, which is the largest rice mill in Africa, Kebbi State. Olam, largest feed mill in Africa, Kaduna State. Sunti, largest sugar company in Africa, Niger State. In the area of social intervention programs, President Muhammadu Buhari made it possible with the implementation of 30,000 minimum wage for Nigerians, the creation of the Empower, the school feeding program, the trader money, the farmers money, market money. In the area of pension and gratuity, President Muhammadu Buhari has implemented pension arrears payment for public servants, gratuity payment for public servants, Biafra soldiers entitlement paid, retired police pension, airways retirees settled. In the water sector, water supply and dam irrigation project completed by Buhari's administration in 2018 projects. They include the Central Obia Regional Water Project in Bayelsa State, Sapke Dutsi Mashi Water Supply Project in Katsina State, Kashimbila Dam in Taraba State, Agwashi Uku Dam in Delta State, the Shagari Dam Irrigation Project, Sokoto State. The housing sector is not left out, as each state across the country has witnessed the construction of 10,000 estate houses. Also, the Buhari Quarter Housing Scheme across the 36 states. With the challenges Nigeria is facing in the wake of the coronavirus pandemic, President Muhammadu Buhari is still determined to deliver service to Nigerians. For those who do not agree with this scorecard of President Muhammadu Buhari, they are free to come up with strong evidence to state otherwise. President Muhammadu Buhari has contributed a lot to the development of Nigeria. He has no equal in politics. He is irreplaceable and he will deliver more.
Welcome back. That was actually some scorecards by the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari, not only in this first year of the second term, but also since 2015. But now we'll look into the Siemens AG contract to improve our electricity, as well as a $1.2 billion injected approved loan for the agri sector. We learned that there will be a revolution in the agri sector as a kind of agri mechanization. Leke is already in the studio and is an expert in this, and we want him to render his voice into the discussion. Mr. Leke, now, can I say that we are about to get it right, or we have gotten it right in the power and agri sector? Let's start with the power sector.
That's a very good question, Daniel. I will say that it's a pretty good development. It's a positive development with regards to the fact that both of these, announcements, when they become reality, will actually make a positive change in the development of Nigeria as an entity. I'll tell you why. The Power Sector Recovery Program document, which was prepared by the federal government in collaboration with the World Bank, stated that around $29 billion is lost by Nigeria every year because we have limited access to power for businesses. Imagine in the last 10 years, if we had increased our GDP by 29 billion over the last 10 years alone, Nigeria would definitely be one of the top 20 economies in the world today. So, should we be able to make this project actually work out as they have been planned, then it would be a game changer for the Nigerian economy and for the Nigerian people. And for a number of reasons. The average Nigerian, you and myself, we get around 4 hours of power supply every day. And that's counting the fact that around 40% of us are connected to the grid. So Nigeria's peak capacity is around 5,000 megawatts. But frequently it's around 3,000, 3,000, 4,000, never beyond that. But then you ask yourself, why is this so? Nigeria's installed capacity is around 2,500 megawatts. So why are we not producing at least 12,000?
Even during
12,500.
The Jonathan administration, Professor Nebo said, Chinedu Nebo, the power minister, then said they had 5,000 megawatts, and even at the rural area, we saw nothing like power.
Exactly.
So we don't know now whether.
You see, the problem is that we have, you know, during the privatization, they split it up. There were the GENCOs, there were the, you know, the TCN, which belongs to Nigeria, and there were the DISCOs. Now, today, the GENCOs and the IPPs, which are currently operating, they have the capacity to produce 12,500, but they can only produce, they can only send to the grid around 4,000 megawatts. Why is that? One, gas shortages. You know, you have vandalism in the Niger Delta, so you can't supply enough gas to the GENCOs. So because of that, you can't produce enough. But that's just one of the reasons. The second reason, which is related to this issue we're discussing, is the issue of the national grid. At least 30% of the power which is sent out by GENCOs is lost every single time. What that means is that if 10 is sent out, only 7 gets to, you know, as a result of the dilapidated infrastructure, you know, there's obsolete transmission equipment, you know, transmission lines and distribution network. So if we get this right, then it's a step in the right direction. And also the choice of, you know, Siemens AG is, for me, the federal government has got that one spot on. You know, in terms of getting, you know, the contractor, we've gotten an unrivaled name in this spectrum. Siemens AG is known all over the world, delivering world-class solutions in the field of power. As recently as 2015, they delivered a similar project in Egypt, you know, to deliver 16 megawatts. So, sorry, 16 gigawatts. Gigawatts. So, you know, Siemens is a good name. However, and this is where the big but comes in.
So when you say gigawatt, I'm scared. In Egypt.
Yeah, in Egypt.
Wonderful.
Yeah, you know, 1,000 megawatts is 1 gigawatt.
I know.
You know, so my concern is not with the contractor.
And they have to take us to 11,000 megawatts.
By 2023.
Yeah.
You know, so my concern is not with Siemens. My concern is with Nigeria. Okay? Because you would expect that a company of that stature, they would know how to protect themselves.
Okay.
So be sure that Siemens is going into this with their eyes wide open. Don't forget, this project is going to be financed by export credit agencies. And some of the things, and it means that a guarantee has to be put in place. Okay. It means that contractual protections have to be put in place. What that means is that if Nigeria reverts to the era of crony-led implementation where we begin to change the rules midway through the game, we're going to receive a very rude shock. And what I mean by that is, we'll simply find that they caught somewhere in Germany or in the United States.
Over 354 point something euros. The federal government have said it should be paid to Siemens. And your fear, I think the fear you just mentioned now has been dealt with already by Mr. President, who says Siemens will solely be responsible for supplying and upgrading. It doesn't matter whether they have to employ any Nigerian construction company or third party to help them do it. That all he wants is to see that this is upgraded to 11,000 and the supply is intact, even that the distribution companies will have to oblige to this directive. So I don't know.
Yes.
The distribution companies have 60% of the shares in power distribution, while the federal government have 40%. But you can see the directive already.
But let me explain how that works, because we need to dimension the issues.
Okay.
The first issue is that Siemens is responsible for strengthening the transmission and distribution infrastructure.
Okay.
Now, these are two different components. Remember, transmission is controlled by TCN,
Okay.
which is owned by the federal government.
Yes.
Distribution is controlled by the DISCOs, right? Now, Siemens is responsible to the extent of improving the infrastructure. There is another issue, the issue of collections. Now, that leads me to another point. Collection is handled solely by the DISCOs. And the DISCOs to date have not inspired a lot of confidence in their ability to deliver. Let me tell you why. As of June last year, the DISCO, just June 30, 2019, the DISCOs have recorded a total of 1 trillion naira in losses since they started operations. The DISCOs have been bailed out repeatedly by the federal government of Nigeria, and yet we still don't have power. There have been allegations of mismanagement. There have been allegations that they're not interested in investing in the grid, I mean, in the distribution networks that are under them. There have been allegations that they collect 30 naira and they remit 10 naira. You know, all of these allegations have been there. So how does that relate to the issue? So let's say Siemens AG deliver on their remit. They build the products and everything. There are two issues that we need to contend with. The first one is collection.
Okay.
The discos have so far been unable to collect more than around 60%. So they remit 10 naira of power, they get 6 naira. What happens to the 4 naira? We don't know. Okay, and sometimes they take 6 naira, according to the allegations, they take 6 naira and they remit only 2 naira.
Hasn't that been revoked already? That agreement been revoked by...
For discos?
Yes.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Because they own, you know, in conjunction with the federal government owns 40%, they own 60%.
Okay.
What that means is they control, you know, they have controlling stakes in the discos. So my fear, my concern is that after all of these monies has been spent, the total money earmarked for this project is around $3 billion, $3.1 billion. Okay, that comes to 1.1 trillion, you know, naira. Will the discos be able to collect money sufficiently to pay Siemens? The way export credit works is this. A company from anywhere in the world comes to a country like Nigeria and says, we want to finance your project.
Okay.
We will construct, we will procure, we will finance it. Okay? But before we can commit ourselves to this, we want you to collateralize this loan. So for this, one thing that has not come into this discussion, which I've not heard anyone say, is what is the collateral? I would expect that's a sovereign guarantee or a sovereign bond. You know, so what that means is that if the discos are unable to collect enough to service the obligations to Siemens, then Siemens will have two options. Either call in the bond, and if Nigeria is unable to pay, take over the asset, you know, which is the transmission infrastructure. And one other thing, Siemens hopes to generate enough power to power the Nigerian economy by up to $40 billion every year by the year 2028. This is hoping that they achieve their target of 25,000 megawatts, you know, in distribution to Nigerians. So my concern are twofold. One, are the discos able to collect the monies back after the funds have been invested? Okay. Then two, what happens after this administration leaves office and, you know, someone tries to play, you know, hanky-panky to change the contract terms? One thing I can assure you is that Siemens will not allow the contract terms to change because they are cast in stone. Okay. So, but anybody who tries the typical Nigerian, and I'm not trying to denigrate Nigerians, but, you know, Nigerian politicians do.
That always don't want to continue with good policy. Exactly.
So anyone who tries to torpedo this current arrangement will put Nigeria into a lot of trouble, because eventually Siemens will just get damages, you know, awarded against the Nigerian government.
Then the Nigerians will come out to protest and revoke. Perhaps the National Assembly then will do the needful by impeaching such president.
No, well, but unfortunately, by that time the deed would have been done, because a sovereign guarantee is irrevocable. All right. you cannot change your mind.
All right. Before we go into the mechanization, you can be part of this discussion by dialing the numbers on your screen, which are 08137015949 and 07054327616. Remember to add +234 if you are calling from outside Nigeria. The lines are already opened and you can make your contributions. We are expecting calls from energy experts and a medical doctor to tell us about the compendium of Mr. President. So, Mr. Leke, let's go back to the agri sector. You have just wonderfully and explicitly dealt with the power sector. Why we may still come to that depends on the cause of our callers. We'll look into the 1.2 billion naira loan approved for agri mechanization across the 632 local government. Though we have 774 local government, I don't know why it is not the entire local government. But could you say now that we have diversified if this is actually implemented?
Interesting question. Many years ago, I served in Benue State.
Okay.
And I used to visit Broku, Taka. I served in Boko.
Okay.
Initially Makodi, then I moved to Boko.
Okay.
So almost every weekend I'll go to, one local government or the other. I went to Katsina, I went to Yandev, I went to...
So where were you serving?
I was serving in one of the old commercial banks.
Okay.
It's been taken over now.
Okay.
So back then, I would go on the road and I would see trees and trees and trees, kilometers of them, of oranges, of mangoes, of cashews, and you find out that these things are ripening on the trees and they fall to the ground, and nobody's there to do anything about it. And I said to myself, what a waste. Even today, I say to myself, I will go back there someday. I say that to myself very often. To
the food basket of the nation.
To the food basket of the nation,
where
my brother.
food is wasting.
And I know that's where
and yet people are hungry. Anyway, go ahead.
So yes, the initiative to mechanize agriculture and to set up, processing centers is a great one by the government.
Okay.
And why is that important to the story I just told you? Because I said to myself, if there were processing clusters in all of those places, all these oranges will not go to waste.
Yeah.
When you ask the local, why are you not plucking this? I say, if we pluck it, nobody's buying. The money we'll spend to take it to the nearest market, we can't sell it for up to the transport costs. So, having said that, mechanizing agriculture in Nigeria is the way to go. Setting up industrial processing clusters in local governments is also the way to go. However, the devil is in the details. What that means is...
The devil is in the details.
Is in the details. How will this plan be implemented? Again, this plan is going to be financed by a loan. I remember the Minister of Agri said, the loan has been approved. So it's going to be backed by a sovereign guarantee by the federal government. Now, what that means is that we have an obligation. So I have a question. Who is going to implement this project? Is it the government or is it the private sector? Because our antecedents, of government managing projects like this, for me, are not very encouraging. I consult for an international NGO, and I happen to travel to a lot of the states, where we relate with the people on the ground who implement a lot of these, World Bank program, this program, that program, agri programs, and we know that in many instances, the people in the rural areas, the people at the local government have limited capacity to implement a program of this size. Now, the federal government has not released enough data to show how is this going to be implemented. For me, the way to get this going is to...
While you're on, we said we'll be picking the calls concurrently. Let's take this call from Mr. Labode, an energy expert.
Okay.
Hello.
Yes, hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Labode.
Yes.
Can you hear us very well, sir? Your network is actually breaking, sir. Hello, Mr. Labode.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, we can hear you now. We are talking about the scorecard of President Muhammadu Buhari, most especially with reference to Siemens AG contract to be paid to upgrade our electricity supply to 11,000 megawatts, as well as the $1.2 billion approved, the loan approved for agricultural mechanization. Could you say something whether we have arrived in diversification?
Well, I don't know whether we can use the word we have arrived, but I think we can say that some steps have been taken in the right direction. It should be understood that there are a lot of reasons why the power sector is in a lockdown, which arises for liquidity in the market, because some of the players, particularly schools, can always fund to invest in their sector. What basically the principle behind the cement deal is for the government to use a government-to-government relationship to raise funds into the power sector. But not only are they just giving them funds, they are tying the funds to specific projects which have been mapped out in conjunction with the engineers of the discourse to ensure that a proper work is done. So in the absence of the ability of the discourse to lay down a plan for investment in the infrastructure, in the absence of specific and measurable activities of investment within PTN, I think the work of the government needs to be commended.
All right. Mr. Labode, you are calling from Lagos, isn't it?
Yes, please.
All right. What could you say about the 1.2 billion agricultural mechanization?
Well, agriculture is not just a way of life in the rural area. Agriculture is a business. And every business, even if it starts as a way of life, needs to be catapulted into business level. What the loan should do at the level of investment is to catapult what was ordinarily subsistence farming into a proper business, where the farmers will be able to grow cash crops in addition to the food crops that they are already growing, and they will be able to export. And when they are able to export, they are able to earn foreign currency, such that foreign currency earnings will no longer be the exclusive reserve of the oil and gas industry, but it can actually be that agriculture will be able to earn the country substantial foreign earnings. This is not going to happen overnight as a result of this law, but it is expected that if this law is judiciously reduced, it will help set up the framework for increased, proper, and easier farming that will prepare us for the process of exports and consequently forex earnings.
All right. Mr. Sanwo, Mr. Olabode, we will still return to you after analysis in the studio to find out whether it is possible across the 632 local government areas in Nigeria to have agricultural mechanization in this administration. Now, how would you score Mr. President in these 5 years in office?
Well, I mean, that's probably the job of the economists and all of that. Okay. I'm likely a power sector, energy sector expert. But if I'm to look at what has happened within the energy industry in the last 5 years, I can speak to certain specifics. The oil and gas industry specifically needs some help. And one important thing that will be done to cause a major shift and major change in the industry will be the package of the petroleum industry bill. That is fiscal. Within the power sector, obviously, with this cement bill, it is expected that a lot of steps will be taken. But more importantly, the sector needs corporate governance. There should be more scrutiny within the value chain. People held accountable to their actions and there are consequences for bad behavior. You know, all of these things are details which one can sum up as corporate governance. So there should be better corporate governance with the regulator who helps to task to ensure and they do the things that they need to do.
All right, thank you, Mr. Olabode. We'll resort back to you. I'll revert back to you shortly. He is an energy expert and One of the resource persons with the Patito Gangs is also a consultant for the National Assembly Committee on Energy. Thanks for giving us your thought there, Mr. Olawode.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Now, you heard him, and you were on toes before he said you have seen how he rated the administration in the energy sector. However, it's not far away from what you said in the studio already, and the expectations we have is for the Siemens AG and the distribution company to do the needful and light up Nigeria, because we have to go
and the discos.
And the discos, yes, to light up Nigeria, because the problem has always been the discos and the contract terms the previous administrations entered with them. At one time, they said to revoke the contract, you have to pay like $8 million or something before the contract could be revoked. I don't know why any president should enter into such agreement. And over the past, let me say, 3 decades, Nigerians haven't had it so nice when it comes to power supply, and our industries have gone obsolete and let me say incapacitated for production at all. So if this is rightly achieved or implemented, it means the heyday has come again.
Hopefully, I will say this with a lot of restraint.
Okay.
First of all, contracts are contracts. No matter how they were awarded, if they were awarded under due process or in quote due process, you cannot overturn them. If you overturn them, then the guy whose contract has been overturned has the right to go to the court of law to obtain justice. And justice means I need to enforce the terms of my contract. Okay. So where the discos are concerned, they got a contract perhaps under questionable circumstances, because in truth, ceding power to the discos was the way to go. There is no country in the world where, there's no first world country where power is centrally controlled and distributed. And there's no place where the government does it alone, because a lot of private investment is required to ensure that the grid functions optimally. So unfortunately, the selection process is probably the issue we had at the point where the discos were signed up. Capacity certainly wasn't at the level which was required. But then there were also things that the government did that we shouldn't go into that today. That's subject for another day. But back to the issue of mechanization. Mechanization for me is a no-brainer. Mechanization allows you to cultivate more land. Okay. Allows you to do dry season, the so-called dry season farming, okay, in combination with irrigation, of course. Okay. But you know that around this time, the April, May, June, which is the main planting season, you find out that the demand for labor is so high in the rural areas where food is produced. Yeah. What this means is that because there's only a limited number of human beings available, many lands that are available for cultivation cannot be cultivated. So it's a step in the right direction in the sense that a tractor can do far more work than a human being can do it. And in the long run, you find out that even the cost of land preparation, when you use tractors and other mechanized implements, reduces your cost of land preparation. That means productivity increases, your ability to produce increases, and then you can now start talking about processing, which is the other part of this program which attracts my attention. Because when you produce surplus, the next question is, how do we preserve it? How do we increase the value of what we have produced? Okay. So setting up processing centers is the right step if it is properly implemented. I would like to see the federal government get a reputable private sector player who has experience in this sector. It could be from anywhere in the world. Okay. Bring them on board to support the process, to check all the milestones and ensure that we're able to achieve the objective for which this loan has been taken. Otherwise, it will end up being like every other loan we've taken. We won't see anything for it.
Well, that is a wonderful one. We just have less than 5 minutes to go. We're expecting a call from a medical doctor who said she wants to talk about the health sector. But largely, how would you rate the administration scorecard of President Muhammadu Buhari in these 5 years?
Okay. Now, I don't know if I'm the right person to ask this question.
You at least you are an economist in a way.
Yeah, so I am going to give you my opinion about this.
Yes.
In 2001,
let me lead you, let me give you the trajectory of the administration.
Yes.
Security, economy, and yes, security, economy, and what is the third trajectory that they said they will implement in their change agenda?
Corruption.
The fight against corruption.
The fight against corruption.
Yes, you can rate based on that standard, and you could also rate based on your experience as an economist.
Okay, if you will permit me, I will not break them down. The reason is this: we don't have enough time to discuss, and I don't want to just make a sweeping statement which I don't have the opportunity to explain. But here is what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Every country is like a family.
Okay.
Like myself, I have a family, and in my family, there is a source of income.
Okay.
And then, you know, at the end of the month, when the money comes in, we then begin to spend, you know, and, you know, do all the things that we need to do.
Exactly.
That's the same way that Nigeria is. Many things that you have mentioned, the issue of corruption, the issue of, you know, security, you know, all of that, a number of them are linked to the economy. So I'd like to talk about the economy.
Okay.
And for me, what I see the government trying to do over the last 5 years is to invest in infrastructure. And that is good. Investing in infrastructure is an enabler of the economy.
Okay.
For every $1 you invest in infrastructure, meaning power, roads, housing, water, all of those, for every $1 you invest in infrastructure, you expect, you know, around $7, you know, in returns on the GDP. Now, the challenge with that is a lot of these infrastructural projects are capital intensive, right? And they take a long gestation period. Now, what the government has been trying to do is to go it alone. You want to build railroads that cost $1.6 billion or $3 billion. The Mambila hydropower project is $3 billion. The government wants to do it alone. It's a mismatch.
Okay.
Because while it's a laudable project which will help the country, it's not matched with the level of revenues that the country is currently generating.
Okay.
Where are we getting money from? We get money from taxes, we get money from the sales of crude oil, we get money from, you know, some other, you know, the likes of...
So the government is anxious to getting things done.
Yes.
But have limited resources. Is that what you're saying?
Limited resources. So my point is, there is a better way to leverage your capacity.
Okay.
So the government's role traditionally in all the developed countries of the world is to create the enabling environment where businesses can thrive so that you can generate more taxes.
Okay.
Where investors can come into your economy, where when you have put the platform for them and say, hey, look, we are investing $1 billion in this project. We are looking for committed parties around the world that will come and invest $19 billion to fulfill this $20 billion project.
Okay.
So I see that the government is trying to fix the infrastructure, you know, and to do everything, to do this, to do that, and everything by itself. Honestly, it won't take us to it won't take us as quickly as we want to go.
Okay.
You know, I was trying to mention one thing. In 2004, I watched a film by Michael Moore. It was Fahrenheit 9/11. He talked about the Bin Laden. And in that movie, I learned that the Saudis own 7% of the American economy.
7%.
7%, really?
Okay.
You know, we have this sense of ownership where we don't want to give away part of our country. But hey, look at it. The American country is the top economy in the world.
Yeah.
$21 trillion, you know, GDP. You know, so what we need to do is to liberalize our economy, encourage people from all over the world, make Nigeria an attractive place for investors to come into. Look at Dubai. Dubai had less oil than Nigeria. What did they do? They realized that by 2016, their oil was going to finish. What did they do? They said to ourselves, how do we bring wealth from all over the world to this place? Okay, they said, oh fine, this is what we're going to do. We're going to create monuments in this place. We are going to remove taxes for businesses. We are going to attract the likes of JP Morgan, the Fortune 500 companies of the world. There is no Fortune 500 company in the world that doesn't have, or if there are, there's just a few of them that don't have an office in Dubai. Dubai today is the #1 location for tourism in the world. And
they've turned the desert to
a beautiful land paradise.
Yes.
And many people don't even know that Dubai is not a country.
Yes.
Dubai is just one emirate out of 7
Yes.
in the UAE.
Yes.
So we have examples we can follow. So my summary is the government has done, they have good intentions. They've done pretty well in the area of setting up infrastructure. But if they want to do more in these next 3 years, we need to be leveraging private capital from all over the world.
Thank you, Mr. Leke, for coming into Spectacle. I think you have explicitly analyzed and set agenda for the government if they must succeed in implementing the infrastructural pursuit that they place before them. And this is where Spectacle will stop today on Television Nigerian. You do well to follow us on our social media platforms. And don't forget to drop your constructive criticism and your comments. We'll get back to you. Thanks for watching, and I have been Daniel Atai. Welcome to Spectacle on Television Nigeria. I am your host, Daniel Atai.